Welcome back to the channel. This is Wltoys RC Hobby. And guys, what do I have in store for you today? To kick off 2021, the Wltoys 144019. The upgrade to the famous 144001 Buggy. This is 1/12 scale now. Thank you, Remotoy, for sending us this car to review. I can't wait to get my hands on this little guy. And I know there's a lot of videos out there already on this Buggy, but I'm going to go over a few improvements that this car has over the predecessor. And let's get to it. Before we do, please be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll be bringing you RC content like this each and every week. So if you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing. All right, guys, let's do it. So here we are, guys, the Wltoys line. Here's the previous version, the 144001 and the 124019. And guys, these cars are super popular, especially the 144 for the past 2 years. I've done several videos on this car between upgrades, what to look out for before running it. But this car is basically the same as the 144. But of course, the body scheme is different. But the big difference is the chassis is much longer on the 124 and 45 millimeters longer to be exact. So if let's flip this over, still the same make chassis, still a metal chassis. And as you can see, it is a much longer chassis, but the arms and the wheels, the tires, the shock towers, the shocks themselves, aluminum threaded shocks, you still got the same CVDs and dog bones, same A-arms and such. So basically the car is the same, but again, just longer. Now, what is this going to do? This is going to improve performance. It's going to improve some handling. It's not going to flip over as easy as the 144 did. So going in a straight line, doing speed runs with this car is going to be much better than the 144. Is it worth the upgrade? I do believe so. For a few extra bucks, you are getting a far superior car, in my opinion, when it comes to upgrading and wanting to do speed runs. The handling and the performance and the grip on the road is going to be better than the 144. And remember too, these cars are the clone or knockoff to the LC Racing and the Taycan lines. And these cars are at a more affordable price. So what I have here is the Taycan Bulwark. This is the truggy version of basically these cars, okay? Now you could convert the 124019 to a truggy like you see here. Even this body would probably fit on this if you got the right mount on the shock tower. But what you see here is the same chassis, same 45 millimeter long chassis. But again, you're going to be spending over $200, maybe $250 for this truggy, as opposed to just a little over $100 for the 124019. So in the box, you get this basic controller. It's a 2.4 gigahertz controller. You got your steering trim and your throttle dual rate. 4 AA batteries will power this on. Pretty good controller. Pretty similar to the LC Racing line and the Taycan controllers. Not much to it, really. It's pretty much all you need to get this little buggy going. It also comes with an instruction manual with a parts list in there. And many of the parts of the 144 will work on this car. And you also get that cheesy charger here and the little wrench to take off some of your hex nuts and whatnot from your wheels. I would suggest getting a hobby-grade charger. These chargers just not reliable as a USB and could possibly even overcharge your batteries. You don't want to do that. LiPo batteries are pretty finicky when it comes to things like that, so you want to get yourself a good hobby-grade charger that has a balanced charge to it. So now we can see the longer chassis and how these cars are laid out in comparison to one another. So you see the 144 is more compact. There was a lot of difficulty in the past when it came to, say, going with a 3S battery or a bigger battery. You interfered with the ESC that was mounted on the center brace. Now you have a much longer chassis. You got much more space on here. So you could put a 3S battery in here and not really interfere with the ESC that was normally mounted here on the earlier line. Now it is mounted here on the chassis. So when it comes time to upgrading this car, which is what we are going to do, now you have plenty of room to put an ESC, to put a receiver. So this is a really nice setup, way more balanced too, compared to the earlier line. You had everything kind of compacted over here. This is a big motor here, same on this car, but this car will be able to handle a little bit better because of the balance. Now you have just a bigger chassis, so leaning into turns and such are going to be a much better grip to the road than this, because this was a little lopsided with the weight of this motor. And so many times too, when you put the body on top of the 144, you interfered with any sort of ESC that you did in the past. You would sometimes kink this brace, and that wasn't good either. So the support here was diminished. But now you have way more room. And when the open chassis is like this, you also run a little cooler. You ran pretty hot sometimes, these 144 lines, because everything was so compacted inside the body. But on this, you have way more cooling going on. What's great too is with this car is that you have a 2200 milliamp LiPo battery, so you can have a longer run time. And so much more fun for the little ones to get out there and bash around with this guy. So with closer inspection, we also take a look at the wheel nuts that are now flanged. The earlier Wltoys did not have the flange wheel nuts, so you would run the risk of going for a drive and sure enough, the nut flying off, losing your tire, losing your hex adapter, losing your pin, and yeah, you'd have to order some new stuff. But now we got some flanged wheel nuts, and also look, aluminum hex adapters now, guys, not plastic. And if you take a look at the two versions here, the 144 moves pretty smooth back and forth like you see here. The newer version, if you notice, the wheels are dragging in the back a little bit. So I feel the mesh with the gearing is a lot tighter. And I found out that the gearboxes inside this new version are shimmed. So those will free up the more you run it. But so right off the bat, diffs were known to strip out of the previous version. So it's going to be a lot harder to strip these diffs. The 550 brush motor sits in the rear just like the 144 and is also accompanied by the 27-tooth large pinion gear to make this car rip right out the box. The 144 out the box went about 30 miles an hour, and I do not expect this buggy to do any less than that. So I do plan on upgrading this buggy with a 2845 brushless motor with 5,000 kV with a 35 amp ESC. I bought this as a combo, but I do have to go with, again, the 15-tooth AliExpress 0.7 mod pinion gear. If you want to go an easier route, you can go with a 3650 brushless motor. I like upgrading more along the lines of what the Taycan and the LC racing cars do. I think it's a little more manageable in this car. Longer life. The car will run cooler with the smaller 15-tooth pinion that you can get from AliExpress. And again, I have videos on that, upgrading the Wltoys 144, so you can apply those same techniques to this buggy. And before we head outside, I do recommend doing a couple things to this vehicle before we get going. And that is, for once, any ready-to-run vehicle, take a look at the car up and down, inside and out, and make sure all your hardware is tight, your nuts, your screws. Make sure things are tight and torqued down correctly, because many times things are loose. The first thing right off the bat is to check the wheel nuts and make sure that they are tight. They are tight on this car. The 144 were pretty loose in the beginning. So check your oil and your shocks. Again, these feel really good. The previous version were overfilled, so you had to bleed them a little bit. So that's really nice. The shocks look really good here. I do recommend opening up the diffs just like the 144 and packing them with grease. So that is a really good thing to do. And I would also adjust your camber and your toe of the wheels. As you notice here, the wheels are a little cockeyed. The rear, if you did want to change the rear toe, as you notice, it is towed in quite a bit. Take this rear plate off right here. Take these little screws out. You're going to pop these little plastic pieces out here that holds a pin and keeps that H-arm underneath, and that will pivot the H-arm to then make these wheels tow out just a bit more. All right, guys, it's that time. Let's go ripping.